What is up, everyone? Welcome to the Football Chatbox and welcome to the buy and sell video. My name is Ryan. We're looking at players that you can buy ahead of game week 32. Now, for those of you who are bench boosting in 32, we'll consider that as well. Those of you who are bench boosting in 33 as well, we'll have a look. Now, apart from that, if you can, let's say if you're not bench boosting in 32, and if you can field 11 players without any injuries and without any rotation risk, I would recommend rolling the transfer. That would be my number one recommendation if you can. But if you need to make a transfer, then let's get straight into who you would who you would look into. The first three would be from Newcastle. Now, Newcastle, we'll look at the double game week teams first. Newcastle and then Crystal Palace. We'll start with Newcastle, pretty easy. I think Isak is going to be the most popular player in terms of captaincy. He is one that I would recommend to go for as well in terms of, but if you don't have a player to buy, definitely Isak is on that list. Would you buy Isak with only just one double and then blanking next week? I mean, not blank next week, with one single game week next week. Not necessary to do it, but I'm assuming all of you already have Isak. If you're worried about captaincy, then I would go and get him in. If you don't have him, but if you don't already have him, then maybe there's a case to be made to go for a Palace player instead, because they double in 33 and 34 as well. But since we're focusing on Newcastle, Isak is one. Murphy is obviously now the second option, given that Anthony Gordon is still, but not certain on his fitness. Because of that, I would go for Murphy. Better minutes, more secured. Once Gordon is back, then like the likes of Harvey Barnes, his minutes reduced. Otherwise, Harvey Barnes could have been a case to be considered, but because of uncertainty in terms of minutes, once Gordon is back, then that kind of reduces his appeal for Harvey Barnes. And then my third option, obviously people had to pick between either Livramento or Dan Burn for the cheaper options. I still went with the Livramento option purely because XA threat generally, like Livramento is more of an assist threat player compared to Dan Burn, who is obviously a goal threat player. If you don't have either, I probably wouldn't be looking to buy a Newcastle defender this week. If you didn't have a Newcastle defender, I don't think I'll go buying one, because double game week this week. Next week they've got Aston Villa. Unless you don't have the bench boost at all and you wanted to target Newcastle, then yes. If you're looking to bench boost in 33 and you don't have any Newcastle defenders this week, then probably I wouldn't look at it. Crystal Palace. Now, Crystal Palace is slightly different. I think defense-wise, Munoz is definitely my favorite. I wouldn't even look at Henderson in terms of goalkeeper. I prefer Munoz over Henderson, to be honest. He's shown in the last game week as well. Just because clean sheets don't necessarily happen for Palace, he's still a very good attacking threat option. In forward line, Mateta is now the clear favorite. Nketiah with the red card is definitely going to be the City game. So Mateta should get at least close to 90, maybe 80 plus minutes. At least he should be able to get. It's a Newcastle game where he might get a bit more less once Nketiah is back, but I still expect a good number of minutes from him. And then game week 33 also, they have the double, so that's also a very attractive option. So Mateta is definitely on a buy list. You told me you didn't have Mateta and Isak and you had to buy one, probably leaning towards Mateta just because of the extra games. Apart from that, the midfield. Now, midfield is the tougher decision. Got Ismail Sarr, who in the last 2 game weeks against Southampton and Brighton, he's had 0 shots, which is not good, because you're buying a midfielder who you want to be able to get goals, and he clearly has not done that against Southampton and Brighton. But the 2 weeks before that, he obviously got 2 double-digit returns. Now, the 2 weeks before that, there was no Mateta as well. I guess that also plays a part, because then Ismail Sarr was the more main attacking threat for that Crystal Palace team. But their next opponents are City, Newcastle, Bournemouth and Arsenal. These are the oppositions that you go and you look and you go, Crystal Palace will have to counter. That should leave a bit more space. And in that specific situation, Ismail Sarr should technically thrive over an Eberji Eze. So that is where I kind of stand. I'm still favoring Sarr over Eze. Even in the data so far, if you look at the midfielders data, Ismail Sarr in the last 4 game weeks, his XGI is up there, but then that's because not in the last 2, but the 2 before that, he had the 2 double digits. So that's kind of why his numbers are still high up. But Eze's numbers aren't even in this list for quite a while. So as you can see, Eze's numbers are very low. I have to go all the way down before I can find Eze over here. So there's quite a bit of gap between Eze and Ismail Sarr. So I still favor Sarr against the harder opponents just because I think he'll get more space to run behind. So let's see if it works. But yeah, it's Sarr over Eze for me. Those of you who had Guehi, I don't know if I would sell, to be honest. I would just keep Guehi. If you went and bought Guehi and he got suspended, he's just missing Man City game. You're probably not expecting a clean sheet from Man City anyways. They have a double game week in 33 as well. Just keep Guehi, to be honest. I wouldn't look to go and sell. Lacroix monitor press conference news with regards to that. Now, moving on to some of the teams that are good for bench boost this week. If you're bench boosting, Brighton. Now, Brighton are one of those teams. Obviously, the red card to Van Heck is the problem. Brighton, the only problem with Brighton, they've got a lot of injuries. And now you look at them playing Leicester. Leicester haven't scored a single goal in the last, 8 game weeks or something. Some crazy stat like that. Verbruggen is definitely up there for a really good option. And apart from him, from a defensive cover, I would go and look at Estupinan as well as another defensive route to Brighton. Van Heck, with Van Heck out, maybe Dunk if you wanted a cheaper option and you didn't have the budget. Like you couldn't go to Estupinan, didn't have the budget, need an absolute cheap option. Lewis Dunk as well. In terms of attack, I think Joe Pedro should be back and playing this week against Leicester. Really good option. You've seen attackers do well against Leicester in the last couple of weeks, so definitely a team to target. Joe Pedro is up there as well. Midfield, I wouldn't look at any midfielders purely because I think there are a lot of other midfield players that you want who have double game weeks upcoming in 32 and 33 that you should prioritize more than the Brighton midfielders. So Joe Pedro, Estupinan, and Verbruggen for me. The other team is Forest, who have also a good week this week against Everton. Now, Forest, their defensive numbers have dropped in the last 4 game weeks. This is Forest, as you can see, kind of bottom of the bottom table for defensive numbers. XG conceded, minutes per XG conceded. They're right there at the bottom, which is not looking good. But then at the same time, you look at Everton's attack. It's not as high as well. Like it's pretty below mid-table, Everton's attack. So you're expecting Forest at home to potentially sneak a 1-0 win. Like they'll just get a goal and then just keep it tight after that is what you're expecting. So Sells as a goalkeeper, if anyone has him, it's fine. Murillo came close to scoring, hit the bar against Aston Villa. Pretty cheaper option if you can't afford Milenkovic. Murillo has better bonus points as well, but Milenkovic has a slightly higher goal threat at times. So those are the 2 Forest defenders. There's also one more which I would recommend is Williams. Now he also affords XA, sometimes XG as well. He's a pretty attacking fullback for Forest. He's also pretty cheaper as well compared to Murillo and Milenkovic as well. If you wanted a budget option, he's in there. Up front now, we don't know about Chris Wood still. So it's Hudson-Odoi from midfield and Morgan Gibbs-White. But I wouldn't be looking at Forest attack. I would prioritize the defense more because without Elanga, maybe it's Hudson-Odoi that probably gets a goal potentially. But like I said, probably expecting a very low scoring game against Everton. So I'd prioritize the defense over the attack at this moment. The other teams that have a good fixture for a bench boost this week would be Aston Villa. And we'll get to Aston Villa soon, but there are no other teams that I can look at and say like decent fixtures. Chelsea, you could say, but Chelsea themselves haven't been playing really well. So let's get into Aston Villa, who plays Southampton this week. Now, we're recording this before Aston Villa play PSG today. We haven't seen the lineups yet or anything. We have no idea what that's going to be like. The players you should get should be based on who starts against PSG. Whoever starts against PSG, you should consider most likely to be a rotation risk. So that is something that you need to keep in mind, which is why if you really, really need Villa players, Morgan Rogers is probably the safer option for minutes, but I don't think he'll start in 32 against Southampton. Very unlikely that he starts. He has been playing, he's been playing insane amount of minutes, but surely the PSG fixture is going to be way more important that you kind of need to rest him potentially. But again, wait and see whether he starts the PSG game and how many minutes he plays in that game before making a decision on whether you should get Rogers or not. If you can hold off that transfer, let's say he starts PSG and he plays like close to 90 minutes, if you can hold off the transfer of getting Rogers, I would hold it off. But apart from Morgan Rogers, obviously, I think Rashford is a decent option. Didn't start against Forest. I don't think he'll start against PSG. We'll have to wait and see, because if he gets a yellow card in the PSG leg, he will be suspended, I believe, for the second leg fixture. So that is something you might need to keep an eye out for, which means most likely he has a decent chance of starting against Southampton. In terms of Villa defense, it's a good week this week. Martinez is probably the safe option. Konsa as well, potentially, but he came off at 45. So, like, honestly, Martinez might be the safe option. I don't trust Villa defense in 33 at all. So, if you don't really need Villa defense, I probably wouldn't go there. Attack, I wouldn't touch. Too risky at the moment with the Champions League fixtures in the middle. So, I wouldn't look at this week. I wouldn't look. 33, maybe different story. Arsenal, only David Raya. The rest, with them winning 3-0 against Real Madrid, I'm expecting a very strong Arsenal team for the second leg as well to see the game out, which means every player is now a red flag because you have no idea who's going to actually start, and it's too risky to try and predict as well. There's a very good chance that they rotate the entire 11 if they need to as well, just to make sure that no one gets injured before the second leg of Real Madrid. I think their priority is definitely Champions League, and makes sense as well. Apart from that, the only other team that has a double in 33 is Manchester City. And the only one I would recommend at this moment is Guardiola, Ederson in goal if you wanted a City keeper, and Mamouche. Everyone else is minutes risk, rotation risk, just because it's like, we thought Kuzanov would have been the more, safer option, but he hasn't played the last 2 games. For defensive coverage, Foden is just a disappointment at the price tag. Savinho as well, minutes risk. Just cannot trust any Manchester City midfielder. So I would just look at Mamouche, Guardiola, and Ederson, to be honest. No one else. Even Nico Riley, who's been playing the last 2 games, I mean, there's no guarantee that he continues to play. Like, Guardiola could easily, if needed, go and play left back as well. So, yeah, I just wouldn't risk it at this moment for any of the other City midfielders that are there. So, yeah, that is basically the players that I will look to get at. And next week, we'll have a look at some other teams that have good options for bench boost. But this week, we mainly looked at like the likes of Brighton and Forest that have decent fixtures this week for a bench boost. Let me know in the comments if I missed anyone, and if I have, put them in the comments as well. And if you've reached up to this point, make sure to hit a like, hit the subscribe button as well. And are you playing a chip this week? Are you playing the bench boost, triple captain, or assistant manager chip? Which one are you playing this week? Let me know in the comments. I'm interested to know. Hit the like, hit the subscribe, and help us get to 1,000 subscribers. Until then, I'll see you all tomorrow for the podcast, Gameweek 32 podcast, at 9:30 p.m. Sydney time. Peace out, everyone.